so much for having me today. I appreciate your time because it's almost 8:30, so you should be a little bit tired. So I'll try to keep this short and one disclaimer, this is not a success story, this is a failure story. So I'm gonna tell you why we failed. And we really failed. Like, we power 10% of the store, but the product, but the product doesn't work. So, and it did not work, sorry. I will tell you the reason why. I'll tell you a little bit about the company and how we started. And I think that it's going to be useful for you guys because if you are building something in the Alexa space, I'm sure you will find a way to apply the lessons that we learned over the way. So I don't actually have slides, so I'm going to move right here. Yeah, so thank you so much, Tom, for the introduction. I actually think that it's not that we are like one of the biggest experts in the field, but we know something a bit. So yeah, a little bit more about me. I'm Vasili. I'm one of the founders of a company called Storyline, which is now Invocable. We built a tool that allows non-tech people to create Alexa skills without writing any code. So we launched the tool September last year, and it kind of took off from the very first days. And this October, we ended up powering more than 10% of the skill store. So we have more than 5,000 skills are built and published through Storyline to the store. And this all sounds really exciting, but the product was not really working. So what I mean by that is, I'm just going to go back for a second and explain to you some of the core concepts that we had in mind when we launched. So I'm actually from the Bay Area, so I'm coming here in London, just accidentally got here. And when we launched the product in September, we had two core hypotheses in mind. The first one was that Alexa skills are quite simple. And we've been in this field for about 4 years now. So we know a little bit about conversational interfaces. And we thought that Alexa skills are quite simple because they have no user interface, they're almost backend, right? So all you have is a conversation. So that was our core hypothesis. And the second one was that if we would build a tool that gives non-tech people, the creative people, an ability to write and publish stuff for Alexa, they would love to use it, and they will succeed. So those were kind of thoughts that we had when we started. And we launched the product in September, and it kind of took off from the very first days. In a week, we were able to get more than 1,000 users. And going forward the year, in October this year, we ended up having many skills published to the store, but most of them were not clear, were not working really well. So most of the skills that were built with the product, and I think that this is the concept that applies generally to Alexa skills. Most of the skills that people built and published in the store, they get zero usage. And we actually did a very deep research trying to understand why that happens, because our product was clearly failing, so we had to do something. And we did the research, and we found that there are 4 core problems with Alexa skills that most people kind of don't think about when they start building. And I think that they should definitely think about those problems when they try to come up with an idea of an Alexa skill. So the first one was types of skills. So most people create really simple stuff for Alexa. Like you've seen those many jokes out there, like sounds and those kind of things are in the store. And those skills don't work really well because they are very simple, they're very limited. Not all simple skills don't work, but most of them, like why would you use Chuck Norris jokes skill for a second time? There's no reason to do that unless you love Chuck Norris. So yeah, that was the first problem, that most skills that people were building with Storyline in general, they're quite simple and they're not really good from the quality perspective. The second one is discovery. And I think this is the problem that applies generally to Alexa and to Google as well as a platform. So it's really hard to find new applications on this platform. So you have a device on your table and you're like, okay, what can they do with it, right? So you can ask Alexa recommend some skills, but it gives you 3 and where to go next, it's not clear. And the App Store, I don't know how many of you tried using Alexa app. It's horrible. Like, it's really bad. So the App Store is not there yet, and the discovery problem prevents even high-quality experiences from getting any users at all. So Amazon is clearly working towards solving that. So they recently launched Can Fulfill Intent, which is are saying in plain English, which is a way to connect your phrase that you say, like Alexa, my t-shirt is dirty, to a skill. For example, a type skill, right? That can recommend you something, how to clean your t-shirt. So that was the second problem, but the third problem, and this is like the major one. So if you just take one thing out of this short session, this is the thing. We thought that an Alexa skill is a content base, right? So for example, a story, an interactive story. The guy previously, he was talking about putting stories in cars, right? So that's an example of an Alexa skill. And we thought that it's a content base, but it's not a content base. It's a product on its own. And what I mean by that is, you have to, to build a really good product, you have to be a decent product manager. You have to talk to users, you have to listen to their feedback, you have to actually implement that feedback into the product. And most people just don't do that, and especially most creative people, because it's not their job, right? And it's not their fault, of course. And especially, most creative people and most business owners, or especially small business owners. So that was, I think, the core thing that kind of blocked our growth, because people were thinking of Alexa as the web, for example, right? So I can, for example, go to Wix.com or Squarespace or any other builder. I can select a template, I can put in my stuff really quickly, I can click publish, and that's pretty much it. My Alexa skill is ready to go. That's not the way it works. So you have to be thinking really hard about the use case first. So that was the third problem. And the fourth one was the complexity problem, that natural language understanding is not good enough. I'm sure guys from Babylon know that better than anyone else, that Alexa is really bad at recognizing most of the stuff. So either you have to build your own natural language understanding, like you did, right? Or you have to limit your user inputs to very, very simple words, which also sounds kind of IVR-ish, if you know those IVR systems back from the 90s, the call automation thing. So yeah, it's not conversational, and you have to say like yes, no, things like that. So those were four core problems, and I think that one big takeaway from this is that I don't think that Alexa is quite similar to the web as we know it, right? It's much more similar to the App Store on the iPhone. So I don't know how many of you guys use an app for getting jokes or for going to a restaurant, to a specific restaurant. Probably not many, right? So you use, for example, like Uber Eats or DoorDash for delivery, or Deliveroo. I suppose there is like delivery here. So yeah, you use products, not like single interaction points. So that's the key thing. And I don't actually think that it's possible to build a product that we wanted to build here on top of Alexa as a platform. So we wanted to build something like, I know the founder of Weebly really well. Weebly is one of the most popular builders out there, who sold to Square a couple of years ago for $300 million. So they basically, they build this very simple thing where anyone can go select a template and publish to the web. And it's not quite possible to replicate that experience here. So that is our failure, and I think that might save you some time. If you guys are building something like this, or if you guys are just considering launching some Alexa skills in general, so try to think about them as products, not as simple content bases. So this is like the bad news, right? So the product is not working. So what we did? What we did is we shifted our focus towards the design space. So we analyzed all of the users that we had, and the number was slightly more than 25,000 back in October. And most of those users who were keeping using the product for a very long time, they were designers. So they were using the product for a completely different goal. They were not trying to build an Alexa skill, publish it to the store, and get some marketing from Alexa, leads from Alexa as a result. Their goal was, how do I design for voice? How do I design and test an Alexa experience without writing code? How do I, let's say, present this to my stakeholders or to my team that I work with? So, and we were clearly succeeding at solving that problem for them. So we talked to a bunch of designers and we decided to focus on this very narrow specific problem, which is how to design for Alexa. And yes, and we also accidentally, we've got a trademark issue So we had to change the name anyways. That is why we launched as Invocable, which is design and prototyping tool for Alexa. And I think that's pretty much it from the talking side. I'll just do a very short demo to explain you guys how it works. So the whole point of the product is to give you an ability to create really high fidelity prototypes in literally minutes. So what I mean by high fidelity prototype is that you can actually launch this on Alexa and you can talk to it like it's a real skill built by an engineer. So yeah, and I have a quick video which is an overview of the product, and most of this stuff, like 90% of it, is already available, so you can go check it out. I'm sure you said this is not a sales talk, so I'm not going to be talking a lot more. I'll just go and explain you how it works. So this is a very simple video, and I'm going to walk you through the tool. So once you sign up, you will have an interface similar to that. This is that work with all your projects. And just let me know if the things are really small and you can zoom in. So that's the network with all your projects. They're organized as lists. So if you're creating like a new product, for example, you can create a new list and drag and drop your stuff there. So once you create a list, you can add a project there. And when you're creating a new skill, it's a very simple process. You need to enter a skill name, which is an invocation name. How do you launch your skill in Alexa? By saying Alexa open skill name. And you need to select a language, which is the region where your skill is generally available. So this is a very tricky thing, and if you are in the UK and your Alexa is set up to English UK, please select English UK, or in the other case, if you go with English USA. The way we think about voice design, so the way we think about that is we present it into a concept of blocks and steps. So as you can see, there are like 5 blocks on the canvas. Yeah, there are 5 blocks on the canvas. And each block is a small interaction between Alexa and the user. So it starts, if you click on a block, or it opens up on the left side of the screen, and you can see over there that it starts from Alexa saying something. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So it starts from Alexa saying something, which is welcome to Fireboard. This is the name of the prototype. And then there are some user replies. These are the things that the user might say to reply to that, or to that phrase. So, for example, if you're building a quiz game, you might say, do you want to start the experience? And the user reply may be yes. And those are very simple things. So, what other things you can do? You can specify the else feature, which is like something like a catch-all intent, if any of you are familiar with that. So it kind of catches all the user says besides things that you listed over there. So if our user says anything besides help, stop, or play me a song, it goes to this section. Yeah, I'm going to zoom out. And yeah, the way you add something to the sidebar is by clicking whether you want to add an Alexa reply or a user reply, or we also have sounds and API calls. So sound allows you to add a very short MP3 file, up to 240 seconds. You can use longer ones, but those files go with the audio player block. It's in blue in the right bottom of the screen, so you can also use long ones as well. And there is an API call, which is an API call, where obviously you can do get and post calls. You can pass information. So for example, you can build skills like you can ask a user for their city, where they live, and then you can get weather information for that specific city using the weather API. Or you can post what they say to an Airtable spreadsheet and kind of save that data. So you can use a bunch of dynamic data operations here. But for this, or just for this demo, I'm going to add some audio. So let's say you write your URL over there. You can also specify random options, which is kind of random variations of this specific thing that Alexa says. So if it's a greeting, you can enter multiple variations to make it more interesting for people. So yeah, and once let's say we added this welcome sound. So the next big thing about the product is how do I add multimodal support to my skill? Multimodal is a visual representation of your skill that appears on devices like Echo Show, Echo Spot, and every Alexa device that has a screen. So if you click to this visual section on the top left, you will get to the multimodal editor, which is the new thing that we are rolling out in December. So here you need to you're building like a visual representation for this specific block, for the welcome block in this case. Here you need to select a layout, which might be a template. So we do have some predefined things, so to kind of help you get started really quickly. Or alternatively, you can copy your visuals from multiple blocks from another block. So that kind of saves you time on producing visuals for each block at a time. Or you can start from scratch. And yeah, let's say I want to start from a template, and I click continue, and the visual editor opens up. So this is how it looks. It's very familiar to Sketch or Figma, if any of you are designers and tried using those tools. It has, on the top left, you can see that you can switch between multiple devices with screens like Echo, Pod, and others. So you can see how your visuals look like on multiple devices before actually kind of implementing that and writing APL or another code for your visuals. Yeah, and on the right you can customize all those things. Everything on the canvas is clickable, so you can just click on this, edit it a little bit, as I'm going to just do in a second. Yeah, you can select images, background images, foreground images. You can edit things. You can add words or customize almost anything, like fonts, colors, pretty much. And when you go back to a canvas, you'll see that this block now has this visual representation, which is an image of how it looks on a device with the screen. So the question is, like, how do you test this? What happens next? Very simple. You click this big blue button on the top right, upload to Alexa. And if you're doing this for the first time, Invocable will ask you to connect your developer account. So we use that connection to programmatically take the thing that you built here and upload it to Alexa as an interaction model. So you don't have to write a single line of code. And the process usually takes up to 30 seconds for the first time. And the cool thing is that once it's done for the first time, you don't have to do that again. We synchronize changes on the fly, and you can just prototype and launch this in Alexa, and again change the copy, and again launch this in Alexa. So it drastically reduces the time needed to test and iterate on the skill. Yeah, and once you upload this to Alexa, you'll get a notification which says the skill is available in your Alexa, and you can launch it by saying, Alexa, open your project name. So that's a very simple demo. Of course, we've got some more advanced stuff like how do I add in-skill purchasing support to monetize my skills? How do I, let's say, use custom integrations like Google Sheets? How do I use conditions? Which is, by the way, which is awesome. It gives you an ability to customize an experience, like what kind of content user gets based on some condition or some variable. So to give you a very simple example, if the local user time is less than 9 a.m., you can greet the user by saying good morning instead of your boring usual greeting. And for example, if they're, let's say, if they're visiting the skill for the second time, you can greet them by saying welcome back and things like that. So we also have much more stuff for like building quizzes and multiple types of experiences. Yeah, but I think this is just a very short demo just to give you a perspective of how easy it is. You can actually do this in minutes. So if you want to try it, just feel free to go to the website, which is invocable.com, sign up. It has a free trial, so any of you can just try building your first thing and testing and playing around with it. And it's actually very, very simple. Even a 7-year-old can do it. So yeah, I got an article with a guy. I met him in Seattle. So his son is building really cool interactive stories for Alexa. Yeah, that's pretty much it from my talk. I hope it was useful for any of you. So yeah, feel free to ask any questions if you have them.
I still don't understand how like the newer iteration of your product helped the users build a higher quality skill. Because with the newest UI, I could still just build like a Chuck Norris joke.
Yeah.
So how did you force them to do that?
So that's a really good one. I actually skipped that part, so I think that's my fault. Sorry about that. And I'm going to explain that. So what we ended up realizing is that most people who are trying to create skills, they are either consumers who just do this for fun, or they are small businesses who want to kind of put their thing out there, just to build like that, just to have an Alexa skill. And we also had a very small percentage, but they were really like high quality teams. So like top US media companies, I would say. So those companies are the big guys. They had teams working on skills. And what we ended up realizing is that they are actually capable of doing this, of producing really high quality stuff, because they have a product manager, they have a designer, they have an engineer, they have a whole team working on this. So what we did is, the interface is kind of the same as it was before, right? But as a design, when you're designing an Alexa skill, you're not creating like a fully featured thing. It's just a piece of the experience. It's not the full experience. So the next thing that we are building is a way to do like a very easy handoff to a developer. So once you create this experience, you might want to add some notes, or like how does it actually need to work, and then you will just share this with the developer. By the way, this is available right now. You can invite someone to join in the project. So we just focus on this very specific problem, like how do people design this? Does that answer your question?
So you basically focused on your client base that we're actually trying to solve like more interesting problems.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say solvable problems.
I have a question. So how does it differentiate from Adobe XD, which kind of does largely the same thing but is cheaper?
Have you tried Adobe?
Well, because it used to be full string.
Yeah.
Sayspring, sorry. And I mean, full string are also in this space trying to do the same thing. And also, what's happening with all the people who currently using Storyline to host their skills?
So there are 3 questions. Okay.
Sorry, and they're all mean as well. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So how this is different from Adobe XD? So XD is kind of like a big design tool, right? So what I mean by that is that it has multiple things inside of it. So in XD you can design for web, you can design for the mobile, and now you can also design for voice. I don't actually think that's the right way to build products, because if you kind of add a bunch of things to one product, it becomes complicated. And Adobe is building multiple things, there's many things. And they're trying to bundle all of them into one product, and I don't think that's the right way. So we're much more focused on a very specific thing, which is how do I design for voice. So yeah, you can actually prototype with Adobe, of course. We're building like much more sophisticated thing than they do. So as for others, they are much more like platforms. As I said, I don't think the platform way is the right way. So I hope that they don't realize this at the moment. Yeah, and I guess your next question was what happens with all existing skills. So
Amazon pissed off about it.
Yeah, some people are really pissed off, especially people like the guy so he posted in the group, he said that you will lose 99% of all the users. And if we just convert 1% of all the users out of 25,000, it's a pretty big number. So yeah, like the 3 guys who were using the product for fun, of course, they're pissed off that we were now a paid product, and we give them a pretty big chunk of time, which is like 2 months, so they can either port their skills to other platforms if they want to kind of continue working on that for free, or they can upgrade. And we will not ever delete live skills that are there in the store. So once they have sort of an extended trial now, which is 50 days, and once the trial ends, which is January 1st, their skills will just become review only, and they will continue working like they are right now, but they will not be able to edit them without upgrading. But they will still be able to export them.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, I was wondering, Amazon banning around their 50,000 skills if you're going to make 10% of them disappear, kicking it in about 3 weeks' time.
Amazon was not quite happy about that. Yeah, but I think...
Do they offer to buy you?
I think they're taking the wrong approach on this, so they kind of push people to build more skills.
Right, it's the
Yeah.
Sorry. can help itself.
Hey, thanks so much. Is this on? I can hear you, that's fine.
I want to make sure others can hear too. Thank you so much. And actually, it's funny because this is a very recent rebranding, right? Because I literally went to Storyline like 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
or something.
it's 2 weeks.
Fantastic. I just went in at the last point. I think I was very excited because of when it comes to content marketing and looking at how people can deliver experience in voice, and I was really interested. I was actually trying to look at how to do a flash briefing, and you support that, right?
Yeah, we're supporting that.
Exactly. So it's pretty exciting, and I'm interested. I guess I don't really have a question. I would. The rationale, what I've been seeing experiences, what I've been observing is that omni-channel experiences are pretty attractive. So my own experience, for instance, of using Intercom for support is that I'll send a message on the web widget, but the fact is it turns up an email later is that's where I am. So what I like is experiences where the product experience is where it supports the fact that I'm moving around and I happen to be in email and I can continue the chat. So I'm actually quite a big fan of having an experience where it's coherent across the experience. And I've actually had big problems with Spotify and YouTube for having quite different experiences in different channels because you have to actually learn a new experience because there's no coherence. So that is a kind of counter-argument to your review. I was wondering whether, whether you had any thoughts around that.
What is the question again?
So the question is, so your stance is that voice only is a channel, and I guess my experience and observations is that when do you feel that is proving itself, I guess?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest problem with voice as a channel in general is that people get distracted really quickly. So if you imagine yourself listening to an interactive story on Alexa, which might take like 10 to 15 minutes, there is no way you will kind of keep doing that for that period of time. Or I will promise you, something will happen in that 15-minute period that will distract you from listening to the story. And that's the biggest problem with voice interfaces right now, that the longer it takes you to kind of complete your task with the interface, the higher the chance that you will drop off. Somewhere in the middle of the process, you will get an Instagram notification or a call from someone else, and there is no way for you to come back to the experience. Because you cannot say, Alexa, go back 27 seconds or something like that. There is no way to do that. So, yeah, I think that's the biggest problem with voice, and I think, coming back to your question, I think that multimodal actually solves that problem, because now you have your stuff on a screen, right? And for example, Alexa is asking a question and I got distracted and I lost the question, right? But I can still take a look at the screen and I can see the options that I can say back. So I think that multimodal kind of solves that problem, and I really like the Google's approach, and they're also transferring this to the app, so you can take a look later on and kind of follow up on this. Does that answer your question? Cool.
Last question. Anyone? Apparently not. Okay, so we'll take it to the pub, and if anyone has more questions, we can.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.